Okay, so good evening, everyone.
Okay.
As I kind of mentioned, my name is Heather Chernoff, and I am the Associate Director of Next Generation Engagement here at NJIT. I work over in our alumni office, which is in this building right here. Um, Thank you for joining us for the second session of Adulting 101 series. I'm really glad to welcome you to tonight's session, How to Think Like a Leader Early in Your Career. If Adulting 101 is a webinar series that we started this year, really designed to help young professionals in the Highlander community feel more confident navigating life after college. Each session will cover practical real-world topics. We had a Our last session was on building credit. We have a few coming up on career development and wellness. And this is to help support you have a smooth transition into adulthood. The series will continue to run monthly until the summertime, and then we're hoping to pick it back up next year as well. It is sponsored by our Young Alumni Association, which represents our graduates of the last decade. And if you're wanting to get more involved with our Young Alumni Association, please reach out to me anytime. You should all have my email. Um, so before we jump in, I just want to share some details on how things will work tonight. When you entered, your microphones were muted, and we just kindly ask that you keep that muted unless Priyanka asks a question. We encourage you to keep your video on, but whatever you're most comfortable with. Feel free to type questions or comments into the chat box, and we'll take those at the end of the session. Um, and just look for a post event email from me. It'll have a little survey so we can get some of your feedback and any other important details. So finally, tonight, you will be learning how to develop strategic thinking early so you can stand out, create impact, and accelerate growth long before formal leadership opportunities arise in your career. Drawing from experience leading strategic initiatives at Amazon Web Services, AWS, and interviewing hundreds of candidates at Amazon, this, so set, this session will focus on how to think beyond tasks, understand business impact, and make career decisions that compound over time. It is now my pleasure to introduce our presenter, Priyanka Mahankali. She graduated from NJIT with a master's in computer science in 2016. She is a strategy leader in commercial aviation at Amazon Web Services, AWS, where she works with global aerospace organizations on digital transformation and emerging technologies. By age 29, she built and led new business verticals within AWS and has conducted hundreds of interviews for Amazon. She is deeply passionate about early career development. We've had many conversations already, so I'm really looking forward to tonight. And really has a true passion for helping young professionals build both the mindset and the strategic capabilities required to lead in modern organizations. She's also the host of a podcast called the Early Career Podcast, which we will share a link to. And it's a platform dedicated to helping students and young professionals navigate their first 3 to 5 years with clarity and confidence. The podcast explores strategic thinking, career positioning, market shifts, and the skills that create long-term impact, well before formal leadership titles come to play. Oh, and she went ahead and put the podcast right in the chat. So with that being said, enough from me. I want to hand it over to Priyanka.
Thank you so much, Heather. First of all, I want to say thank you to you for organizing this and for making this opportunity available for students. It's something I didn't have. I think I mentioned it multiple times that when I was studying at NJIT, I didn't have these opportunities where I could speak with career professionals in the industry. So when I graduated, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. So thank you, Heather, for looking out for all the students. I'm sure they're all very, very grateful for you. With that, hey everyone, and good job. Kudos to Erica, who was the first one to turn on her video. So I want to always recognize people who push themselves out of their comfort zone and kind of show their face and, get in front of people because, like we talk about all these things like influencing and, leadership and all these big words, right? But really, it's these small things. It's not, it sounds complex, but it's really simple things like, getting on a call with someone, showing your face, because, the more you show your face, the more people remember you. The more people remember you, the more people think you're present. And when opportunities show up, then, they remember you. And, those one thing leads to another. And then over time, it becomes a real opportunity, right? So good job, Erica, and also Patrick. If anyone else wants to get on video as well, that would be wonderful. But if you're not comfortable, that's okay too. If there's any questions, please post it in the chat. You can also unmute yourself and ask me. I'll also kind of talk about a topic, and then I'll give you some time to ask questions. So we'll kind of keep pausing and going so that it's not like a 45-minute session, and then at the end we're just leaving it for questions. So with that, thank you so much for having me, for your time here. My name is Priyanka Mahankali. I did my undergrad in India and then master's in at NJIT in 2014. So I was a 2016 graduate. I am older than I look, but younger um, you know than I want to be. So I graduated in 2016 with no internships, like no prior, work experiences, nothing. And then, it was crazy how I just got into one of the biggest tech companies in the world, Amazon. And, even when I got into Amazon, it was like, it was shocking. I was almost not able to believe it for a year. Speak about imposter syndrome, right? How even if you get into the company, you're still like, did I actually get in? I mean, you won't believe I was asking my hiring manager who hired me into Amazon or AWS specifically, like, hey, are you sure that it was me that that you hired, or was it someone else that, that you by mistake, and then he was like, yes, Priyanka, I know who I hired, and I hired you. So you just have to believe it at some point. So, so yeah, thank you, Akeem. So that was how my journey started, and I was into this graduate training program that AWS has had at that time and still continues to have to train young early professionals to develop skills to become a solutions architect. A solutions architect is like a doctor, but for tech. So if a customer comes to you and says, hey, I have this problem, or can you build me the solution or this application? A solutions architect is someone who helps the customer with those questions, right? And then it goes beyond that, but just for, simplicity of your understanding. I'm not sure how many of you, like what stages of your career, or sorry, what stages of your degree you're at. Can you post in the chat if you're in your grad school, which year,
We
what?
also have alumni on here as well.
Okay, okay, gotcha. Can you third year undergrad? Okay, thanks, Erica. What about the others? Can I see some senior grad in August? Okay, good. Senior undergrad, grad school. Okay, so combination of undergrad, grad, alumni class of 2020. Okay, great. Senior year undergrad. Okay, applying for grad school. Gotcha. Okay, so a good combination of undergrad and grad and alumni as well. Gotcha. Alum own marketing business. Okay, perfect. Okay, good, awesome. Well, thank you for that. So um, so then when I got into AWS, I started off in this role called a solutions architect, which is specifically in tech. And then from there, I um, was working. So at AWS is one of those companies where they really encouraged us to work on side projects and what they call as think big ideas. So, you're not just doing your job description. You're not just doing what is told of you. And that's why they say that, Amazon is one of the most challenging companies to work for because not everyone can sustain being in an environment where there's continuous ambiguity, and where there is high growth, there will be high ambiguity. right? So if Amazon is a company that's, really creating the next generation of technology, like now if you see with AI, we're creating literally the next generation of AI infrastructure. So because we're leading that, there will be a lot of fundamental ambiguity, and there will also be a lot of expectations within the company for employees to look outside of their roles to actually create this innovation, because someone's creating this innovation, right? So that's also the kind of people that they hire, is people who are passionate, people who are constantly learning, people who are curious. If you are a curious person, you should consider that a skill, because believe it or not, not everyone's curious to learn, right? I mean, the fact that you guys are here itself tells me that you were curious enough. It's 7 p.m. On a Wednesday, and you're here, so you're already ahead of other people. You're already ahead of the curve in terms of who you are and what you show to me and to other people, right? So good job for even being here. That these are small things that make a big impact. So when I was 20, around 27, so that was probably like a year after I joined AWS, I was working on a sort of a business proposal. Again, I don't have any business experience. I'm nothing, but I had this idea in aviation where I don't know if you guys remember the MH370 aircraft that went missing, right? I think it was like a huge thing, right? So it happened many years before, but it kind of stuck with me. And the curious person that I am, and see, this is how curiosity keeps us, right, in a loop. So the curious person that I am, I couldn't forget about it, to the point where when I joined AWS, I actually my manager, he said, "Hey, Priyanka, you had shared this idea in the interview. Why don't you work on this? Because I think it has a merit." And basically, the idea was very simple: is to, like, if we have Wi-Fi on our phones, why can't the aircraft have Wi-Fi? And why can't we send health information in real time, right? And if you think about it, like on one hand you think, oh, it's super easy, and then, but on the other hand, I'm not from the aviation industry. I don't understand the regulations. I don't understand the complexities, right? So it can be very intimidating. But my manager said, you know what, just start it. And so I wrote a document. It's what we call as a PRFAQ. I'm going to write it down because I want you to look it up later on, and actually look at the format of what it is, because basically a PR is a press release, and FAQ is frequently asked questions. So the way we write any proposal within Amazon is in this format called PRFAQ, where a press release basically puts us in the mindset of taking an idea and writing it in the way that a customer would want to receive it. It's like a release of a product. So you're writing it as though you're releasing a product. And when you're doing that, it makes you think about what the product should look like, and if how will it benefit the customer, right? That's why we are encouraged to write it in this format, and not just from an academic, standpoint, like a research document, because a research document may or may not actually be a good business idea, right? It may not actually bring any revenue. So to understand how it will actually impact customers, we are encouraged to write it in this format. So whenever you're thinking about ideas, you always want to think about what problem are you solving, how are you solving the problem, and how are you creating impact and revenue, because at some point or the other, revenue, whether you like it or not, will become part of it. And when we are early on in our career, in our lives, we we stick to ideas, we stick to technology, we stick to and if we have ideas, we are very we love our ideas so much that we're not able to think outside of it, like how is it actually, and we're not able to be critical about our ideas, right? So this document helps us be very critical about those things. And so, yeah, so I wrote it, and I started sharing it internally within AWS, and with our internal community. And I got some good feedback, I got some bad feedback, and of course, I was young, so I took my own. It Getting feedback is not easy, so I took my own time to figure out how to accept feedback, and also how to use the feedback. Like, I needed to even use the feedback to make the document better, sharper. And I also got some feedback from aviation experts saying, "Oh, you know what? This idea is never going to work. Like this, we already have radio transmission, so you know it's never going to work." And I thought, oh, if it's an aviation expert saying that, then of course they're right, right? But guess what? Sometimes even people who know it who know a lot, who are experts, may not be right, because and it's not about right, it's about because it's harder for someone like that to think outside the box. Like for me, I hadn't, when you don't know something, actually that can be a great gift. I didn't know anything about the aviation industry, and it actually became a great gift for me because I was able to easily think outside the box because I had a blank slate, right? As opposed to someone who was an expert and who knew a lot of constraints of the industry already. So, so over time, I kept pushing through, and eventually the document became so sought after by customers, and because we started sharing with customers, we started having brainstorming sessions, and customers said, "Oh, you know what, we want this," and customers started talking about it to other customers, and eventually, as Heather was mentioning about how I kind of created my own role when I was 29 was because of this. So it became AWS decided to make this idea a focus within the business, and then they asked me to lead this focus, and then that's how I became the commercial aviation specialist for all of AWS, by the way. So I was the only one, and then eventually we hired another person, but it kind of all started with me because we didn't even have aviation at all within AWS as a business unit. So the reason I was giving this elaborate introduction to you is because the introduction itself has so many small pieces to it where, I talk about imposter syndrome, I talk about feedback, how hard it is for anybody, not just, you're not the only one. Or maybe you're better than me. I had a hard time accepting feedback. Also, especially when you're getting feedback from experts and when you're getting some feedback like, this is not going to work, can really drag you down, right? And also the fact that some ignorance can sometimes be a gift, So if you don't know something, maybe that's a gift. So don't ever feel like, oh, I'm not good enough, or oh, I'm not the senior person, or the fact that just because someone's senior to you or someone's better than you at something doesn't mean that you are less. So the one thing people ask me always, oh, Priyanka, how are you so confident all the time? I'm actually not I don't know if I'm confident or not, but I always felt like I was equal to everybody, fundamentally. Like I always felt like I was equal to, like, the biggest CEOs of the world. And, I never felt like I was less than anybody, literally anybody. I didn't feel I was greater than anybody, but I never felt less either. So I think that's what kept me going with this idea, and how I was able to create something this massive at a young age at a company like AWS where there are already very smart people. And I don't, I wasn't like a merit student in school. I wasn't like, the top ranker, or I wasn't even like really good at studies. I was just a very, very average student. In fact, I think in NJIT, my first semester, I got a C in in networking. So then it's funny because then what I did is in my second semester, I had to take the same class, and then I got a B plus, and I got so motivated by that, and I got so interested in computer networking that in the third semester, this is an elective, I didn't have to take it, but I actually took advanced networking. I selected it myself, and then my professor was like, "Are you sure you want to take this?" And I was like, "Yeah, now I want to take this because I put in the effort, I got a B plus, and now I want to go deeper into it." Um, and and when I actually was doing my AWS interview and they asked me, "What's your area of expertise?" I actually said it was networking, because like it actually started from me failing in networking to getting a B plus to then taking advanced networking, which then now is actually my area of expertise from a technology perspective. So I'll pause there. Any questions you have for me, or any comments? Like maybe no questions, but just, you want to share something of your own. Yeah, Azim, go ahead.
So going back to the MH370 side project, that's pretty cool. Um, it caught my attention specifically. What was the most interesting thing you learned while building it?
First of all, thanks for the question, Azim. Great question. I think one of the most interesting things while building it is the fact that very, very few people saw the potential of the fact that, eventually satellite would become mainstream in aviation. Because basically, I mean, believe it or not, till now, we actually don't have real-time streaming of health data from engines and other components of the aircraft. We have very good radio signals going to the aircraft for communication purposes. So that was a gap that I didn't know that existed. And over time, as I started thinking more critically about the idea, I realized that satellite connectivity was actually on the path to becoming mainstream in aviation for the very reasons that some of the issues with aircrafts may have happened. Again, there's no direct correlation between the missing aircraft and this idea, but it at least contributes to creating more safer aircraft in general, right? And if you look at there's Starlink by Elon Musk, and then there's Amazon Leo by Amazon that's coming up. So it's like parallel technologies are coming up to support more connectivity on boards and support all of that. So what I learned is you also have to look when you're looking at an idea, you have to look at what are the sort of parallel advancements that are happening that are going to help complement this idea. Because let's say that satellite connectivity was still not going to be advanced enough, then the idea basically is not in the right time. It's not being made in the right time. So that was my biggest observation. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So did you ever find out what it was, if it's not state secret or company secret?
Oh no, it's not that, again, it's not that specific because
Hmm.
any problem, I mean, one of the biggest complexities of human life is when we have such complex problems, sometimes there are no answers, or the answers could be unsettling, So with the MS-370, I don't think there's really any tangible answer. It's just, but we're just making aircraft safer, we're making aircrafts more efficient and generally as an industry, right? That's how you've got to look at it.
Right. And then last question real quick.
Yeah.
So currently I'm building an AI system for the commissioners. So I was wondering, like, what is a big issue that you think maybe AI could solve in this like field that you're working in?
Yeah. Yeah, so great. Again, AI, touching on AI, great question. I like where your head is at. One of the biggest challenges in commercial aviation right now is the retiring workforce, actually. It's a very, it sounds like a weird problem, but it's actually very, very real. And it is a challenge that's actually going to affect the industry heavily. So everyone's talking about it. Um, Basically, the aviation industry has now majority of people in their late 40s and 50s. So they will retire in the next 5, 8, 10 years. So then what's going to happen to the industry then? And so how can we use AI to actually um, train the next generation of talent by giving equipping them with all the information that was tribal knowledge, what we call as tribal knowledge, that was that the seniors in the industry had, or so how can we do a knowledge transfer using AI to make all the aircraft maintenance and manufacturing and connectivity data available to the next generation.
I see. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
So, well, let's comment. Um, so let's say hypothetically I was to work on a side project like something AI. Would you think it'd be useful to make like sort of dashboards for the next generation? Something like a video. Well, no, they already have a video game. I'm thinking of something unique, but yeah, I would
Yeah,
have to
good. Yeah,
research.
good. I mean, we can talk. You can go and I'll share these details later, but we can chat one-on-one. You can go to my LinkedIn and under contact info, you can book a meeting with me, and we can just talk about whatever you want to talk about offline. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Thanks, Azim. I appreciate the question. Any other questions? Come on, I'm going to take one more question. I'm going to
Um,
challenge. Go ahead,
one question for
Patrick.
on the topic of next generation and AI.
Yes.
In the aging workforce, have you found sales affected as well, sales operations, knowing that in my line of work, I've had a lot of people that have been in my company for anywhere from 30 to 50 years, and we're trying to get as much knowledge as we can from them daily. It's not really formalized. Granted, I think that's just the industry I'm in, where it's a lot more trade knowledge, trade secrets.
Mhm.
How do you think that would play out for, say, other industries? Like, hey, we have a really good sales marketing manager, or we have a really good inside sales rep. How do you think AI can work that out? Like, hey, this is what you want to say for this client. This is what you want to do in this situation. Or is it more early work in progress since it's just a breakthrough field relative to careers of everyone else?
Let me restate your question. I think it was around how AI will either help sales reps with their engagements.
Yeah, I think when you have someone who's been working sales for 5 to 6 years,
Mhm.
you normally think, oh, they'll be mentored by someone who's been in the field 25 to 30 years. But if they were to retire or they were to move jobs, is there a potential where you can have like a handbook tutorial system? Hey, this is how you manage clients. This is how you can interface between the manufacturer and the sales rep and the end user. Do you think we can get that in depth, or is it going to be very fundamental? This is how you open a client, how you engage. Anything
Yeah.
beyond that, you really want the human interaction of, oh, I've had similar cases like this when X, Y, and Z happen, so you do A, B, and C to resolve those issues.
Yeah, I mean, so right now, like for one, just fundamentally anything to do with sales, it requires a lot of relationship building and communication skills, right? So, and the way people do that, everyone has different techniques of doing that, engaging with customers. So fundamentally, it's always going to be I think sales is going to rely heavily on emotional intelligence because, um, like for example, right now we're having some because of the situations that are going on with the war. There's infrastructure that is being impacted. So how do we, for example, talk to customers about it without making them feel targeted or making them feel putting them in a place where they feel defensive. So there's like all these nuances that come with being in a sales position, especially if you're like in a pre-sales role, tech pre-sales. So then you have to like think about these things. But I think where AI would actually come into the picture is probably right now preliminary, but it's one is summarizing, for example, customer context of, okay, what is this customer's business about? If the sales rep wants to understand the customer's maybe pain points or gaps or what their current interests are in the industry, what are their goals, what is their market share like? And so getting all of the information faster and then using that as a tool to then start meaningful conversations with customers as opposed to just starting off very basic. I think that's where AI is showing its benefits. um, I think eventually there's going to be more, but for now it's based on, again, it's based on, for example, within your companies, what kind of tools does the LLM have access to? For example, if the LLMs have access to Salesforce, then Salesforce has a lot of information, for example, right? Existing information and data systems. So is the LLM able to access those systems and then get information from it, right? So all those things are related to each other, and it all comes down to data access for the LLMs to be able to surface the right kind of information at the right time. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, and we can chat offline as well, Patrick. But good question. All right. So moving on. Oh, so someone has a question. Akeem, do you use ERP in your day-to-day tasks? If so, what platforms you use to incorporate ERPs into daily tasks? If so, I'll take that question offline, Akeem, if you don't mind, and then we can move on for now. So, what I did want to talk about a little bit as well is um, when you are, let's say, in your first job or you are interviewing for your first job, right? Um, I want you to think that I want you to think, or I want you to feel like you are um, in a position where you are empowered, where you feel like you are equal to the other person. Because, when we go to interviews, right, we always feel like, okay, you know what, I'm less than the interviewer. Depending on culturally where you may be from, it might, you might feel even more, you might want to feel like you are lesser than the other person. So one of the biggest things I learned is to find a way to be confident by actually leading the interview, right? Like you don't want to be you don't want the interview to lead you. You want to lead the interview. So you want to ask the right questions. You want to engage the interviewer. You want to be proactive. You want to be you know you want to be having the right energy. So that's one thing in interviews that's really important. Energy and passion counts. If your body language comes across like really dull and shy, or doubtful, or intimidated, those are things that, even no matter what skills you have, it's not going to actually help, because interviews are a lot about how you come across, your emotional intelligence, your energy that you're bringing, body language, hand gestures, all of these things, right? They all matter. That's why I'm doing all these things. um, but apart from that, when you are an entry, let's say you get into a company, right? Um, y- you know, yeah, you might be in a junior position, right? But if in my introduction, I mentioned about how I didn't feel like I was ever junior, right? I felt like I had this idea. I felt like I had a great mind, and I kind of went with it. And so even if you are in a junior position, because see now, if you look at the market where it's going, AI is going to actually kind of be a great equalizer. Well, great or not, we'll see, but it is definitely going to be an equalizer where technology is going to be table stakes. Everyone's going to know basic things, right? So, what do you bring to the table? Is your judgment, your ability to make decisions, good decisions, strong decisions. How do you manage risk in those decisions, right? What kind of energy do you bring to team meetings? Are you just, what we call as a note taker on the side? It's it's there's a thing like how your when you start working for a company, right? You want to kind of decide who you want to be, because once you be a certain person, you can't like suddenly just change, right? Because there's a certain dynamic that's created with other people. So when I'm also like changing teams, I'm like, okay, now I'm going to be this completely different Priyanka, because I can, right? Because like nobody knows me there in that new team, for example. So like you can kind of like look at it as a game where you actually intentionally decide what kind of person you want to be, leaving all of your insecurities and imposter syndrome aside. You got to leave it aside. Not that you won't have it. I mean, I still have it today. Like I was thinking about a whole bunch of things that I was scared about today at work. So like you will always have imposter syndrome. I don't have good news about that. You'll always feel insecure about something in life, right? But what you need to do is to do it anyway, right? And so when you are in your first job, it's about what you feel inside about who you are, right? If you feel like you're like a badass strong person, then you're going to be that person. If you feel like, oh, I'm less than everybody, oh, this person knows more than me, or I don't think I'll be able to do it, or I don't think I'm good enough, then you're not going to be, right? It's completely dependent on what you tell yourself. And this sounds cliche, it sounds like fluff. That's why I started off with my introduction and very long one at that, where I actually shared the incidents so that you don't think I'm just saying these things randomly, right? Because you should never believe anyone unless you know what they actually did, right? So, but at least I don't. I take the time to really know if someone's, what someone's saying, and if they are just saying things or they actually have done what they have said. That this is also another thing that falls under judgment, right? Good judgment is trying to see beyond the fluff and trying to see beyond superficial things. And it's the same thing with feedback. When you get feedback, there will be see feedback. There will always be another person's the color of another person's life experiences and their own perspectives and their own insecurities as well. Believe it or not, everyone has insecurities. Even the most powerful person in this world has insecurities, because they are afraid that they'll lose the power, right? Everyone is insecure. Like, in fact, the more you have, the more insecure you become, right? So anyway, that's a whole separate conversation. But the point is that you still have to do it. Any questions about the mindset when you're starting off, and mindset for interviewing? Also, I've talked in more detail about this in the podcast. So uh, another thing about podcasts is, not just mine, but I myself have been spending a lot of time in the last 1 year listening to podcasts, like tech podcasts and like business podcasts. Like right now, I'm listening to like a politics related podcast for, I mean, because everyone's interested in what's happening with the world, but um and also, related to like investors, so like how investors make decisions, because I want to know how to make more sound decisions, right? So instead of like listening to music in the car while you're driving, when you're cooking, when you're, maybe taking a shower or whatever it is, in the morning when you're getting ready, just take one episode of the podcast, and keep it on. Even passive learning is better than nothing at all, right? Because you're like you're listening to all these different opinions of people, and like how they're talking, also observing how they're talking about certain things, right? That is also very important. Like, I always observe how people who are truly successful, and by successful, I mean who've actually made an impact in this world, how they talk about things, right? And then you start to kind of become them or try to learn certain things from them, because learning is also like incremental. It takes time, it's not like if you watch like one YouTube video, now you've transformed, it has to be consistent. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes patience. So that's when people ask me, "Oh, Priyanka, can you tell me how to be confident?" I'm like, I can't tell you how to be confident. You know, it's something you learn, you build over time. I can tell you give you some mental models, which is what we're discussing right now. Even like you having this interaction with someone like me who has been in the industry for a while, hopefully gives you some sense of, oh, you know what, if she can do this, then I can do it, or I can do better than her, which is, you should absolutely. Hopefully that's what it gives you. But yeah, any questions? We have about 20, little bit less than 20 minutes. Any questions from someone who has not asked a question yet?
Hi.
Hi, Brendan.
Hi. One second. Okay. Hi, how are you?
Perfect. Good. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. I have a quick question. You mentioned some of like the body language and how to do well in an interview. I was curious about the questions aspect because I've thought about some questions myself. It depends on who the interview is and how they react to some of the questions and how the interview goes. But would it be okay to ask questions in the middle, or would you suggest more like at the end?
Yeah, so I mean, if it's a follow-up question to something that they have asked you in that moment, then you can ask them. But if it's like a question about the company or something else like that, more generic, then I would suggest you to ask them in the end. But make sure that you have good questions when you're asking those. For example, you could ask something like, apart from, what is your daily work looks like, what kind of goals do you have in your team for this year? Or what are some successful projects from last year and from your team, right? Because that gives you a sense of what your success might look like if you were to join that team this year, right? Things like that. Does that answer your question, Brandon?
Yeah, it did. I was also gonna, well, you already answered it in a way. I was gonna say, what would you suggest would be a great question to ask? But then it becomes more of a like specific to the company and the interview, I'd assume.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, a great question for me, I think, to ask is, what does can you share with me a couple of successful projects from your team in the last year? Because that is one, very tangible. Two, it gives you a very strong sense of what kind of work the team has actually produced, right? Because day to day, how much can you know from it, really, right? Like, how can you really know what success would look like for you if you were to join the company?
Understood.
Yeah.
Understood. Yes.
Awesome. Good question, Brendan. Thank you. All right. Since we have um, a little bit over 10 minutes, let's also talk about um, um, mentorship and building relationships. So, this is a question I get all the time because actually I had a lot of strong mentors in my almost nine years at AWS, and like these mentors ranged from people who were you know at my level, because in corporate structures you have actual levels. So at my level, two people who are a level above, two levels above, and in companies, to get people to want to, or even not even in within the context of your company, it could even be anyone outside, right? Like it could just be anyone that you're seeing on LinkedIn that you feel like, wow, this person's the way they talk, or what their experience is like, or something about them that you like, that you want to learn, and you want them to mentor you. And let's say they're like a VP of a company, whatever, right? So I had the fortune of having a lot of different mentors at different levels, and this is one of those things that it was purely instinctual. It was not something that someone told me, but later on I realized how impactful it actually ended up being. But um because of that, a lot of people ask me, hey, Priyanka, how come you know so many people at AWS, and how do I get mentors like you? And I always answer with a very boring answer, saying, hey, you know what, it's I don't have a one word good answer for you. And the reason is because there is no one word, right? There's no like magic word or secret sauce. It's So I wanted to elaborate a little bit more on that. First of all, again, as I said, you guys being here on this call, connecting with alumni, connecting with people in the industry, it's it's the right approach you're taking. Your head is in the right place, right? Because otherwise you could be doing literally anything else right now. So this is how you do things. But basically, when I was in AWS, and let's say I was talking to a senior solutions architect, and I really liked how they approached certain customer meetings. I would say, ask them, hey, I really like this specific thing about you. Can you be my mentor? And then they would say, yeah, absolutely. And and then so it was a very explicit ask, is what I'm trying to say. If you want someone to be your mentor, you have to tell them what you like about them, and what you want to learn from them, and the fact that you want them to be your mentor. Because if only you think that, that you want to learn something from them, and you don't actually establish a formal mentor mentee relationship, then the mentor doesn't have any accountability to make you succeed. But when you ask someone, hey, do you want, can you will you be my mentor? So then now you're also kind of entrusting them with the responsibility to make you succeed, right? So now they have to prioritize time because they've agreed to be your mentor, right? And they would be a bad mentor if they didn't help you, and they didn't hold some accountability, right? So, but even a mentor has or is choosy, right? Like a mentor wants to mentor candidates who have strong potential. Nobody wants to mentor someone who is just there to like kind of, hang around, right? So, so you have to be a good mentee for someone to want to mentor you, right? And for that, you have to show your initial potential by, wanting to work with them, asking a lot of questions, being very curious, asking, oh, what's this? Oh, why is this? Oh, can I set up 30 minutes with you? I just want to chat with you about this, and I want to know more about this and that, and kind of like build a rapport with them, right? Because you have to, and this is the part of creating relationships with people so that people feel naturally invested in your success and in your career journey, right? And then that's how over time these things compound. And now I have like probably like 10 or 12 mentors, and all from different disciplines, even like people who are not just in tech, like people who are in the business side, who are VPs at AWS. But they chose to mentor me because some, for example, if it's a VP, it's not like I randomly asked them and then they just said, oh, yeah, sure, I'll mentor you. No, I spent years trying to establish a relationship with them, and years showing them how much I was interested in certain qualities of them, right? To the point where they probably felt like, okay, this person is so consistent and is bothering me so much, like, the good kind, that I want to mentor them, right? Because I feel like there's a potential for them to grow, right? It's just like saying, would you invest in a company that has no potential, or would you invest in a company that you think is going to grow, right? So you have to be the company that the investor or the mentor thinks is going to grow. So they need to see the growth potential, and that's when they will, and that's how you build this network over time. So start now, right? Go to LinkedIn. Like you can even start by posting your thoughts. Like, oh, today this is what I learned. This is something this was like a gotcha moment or a learning moment, and then this is what it taught me. What do you guys think about it? Create a community, start building that sense of community, start connecting with people. If someone tells you that, hey, you can set up time with me whenever you want, take the opportunity, because hold them accountable to what they said, right? If they said they're giving you time, then take the time and hold them accountable. That's what I do all the time. I'm like, hey, I know you mentioned, you said I can talk to you at any time, so can I do that? you know so, so like I don't miss any opportunity. And that's also another thing that people see and say, oh, you know what, Priyanka, like she never misses any opportunity, even to just chat. Because sometimes people ask me, oh, but what do I get from that? Nothing. But if you go in with the expectation that I want to get something now, you're never going to get anything. It's like a relationship, like when you're trying to be with someone, right? Like you have to go in with uh with a with a feeling that you want to give, you don't want to get, right? Because the getting will eventually come. You can't get until you give, right? And so you can't be transactional, because the more, nobody likes to be around people who are transactional, And one last thing before I conclude and get to the questions is, when you're reaching out to people on LinkedIn, for example, ask them how are they doing, and ask, show some empathy, because right now, for one, that's something that the world needs more of, right? Be that person. And two is, you know, fundamentally care about people, because when you do care about people, it like the energy, doesn't lie. People can sense that energy. Because sometimes, let's say I have 30 minutes in the day today, okay? And I have two people that reached out to me on LinkedIn. Usually, even if I look, I've been a student, and I am, but I've been in very difficult situations in my own life, not getting a job for a long time before I got into AWS. So when people reach out to me, even if they don't reach out to me in the right way, I still try to respond, because I just ignore the inappropriate part. But let's say, generically speaking, there's two people that reach out to me on LinkedIn. One who had an empathetic message, short message, empathetic, and had an action. Like, hey, I noticed this. And when I say empathy, um, it's not just saying, hey, hi, how are you? It's empathy. And empathy can also look like saying, hey, how are you? Hope you're doing good. I noticed so and so thing about you, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
And would you be able to spend 30 minutes to talk to me about this whenever you have the chance, right? constructing a good message and a meaningful message with strong intent, but short, right? And not just saying hi, how are you? That and so that's the second example. Example is someone just reaching out saying hi, how are you? Okay. And actually, oh, you know what? There's a third example. Third example is someone not even saying that, just saying hi. I need help with job referrals. Please tell me if you find you if you can get me a job, right? Like, so which person would I feel most inclined to speak with, right? The first one, right? So this is an example of how you build, how you actually, I mean, fundamentally create a sense of empathy in your own heart. And this again comes back to practices like meditation and yoga. Like I try to do that all the time because that is what that is what helps in your mental growth, and it helps you in removing the negativity from your heart, right, that you may harbor for different situations in your life. And when you remove the negativity from your heart, then you're able to actually have some real empathy, which then you bring into your career and in your life. And that's why I never, my professional development or my mentorship is never, I always ask people, how are you feeling? That's my first question. I never ask, oh, tell me, show me your resume, because how you're feeling is what I need to know first. Because otherwise, like, if like no matter what I tell you, I can give you like the $1 billion secret, but if you're mentally not in good health, nothing that I talked about will work, because you won't be able to implement it, right? Like, you have to be in good health. So more important than all of this is taking care of your health. Health is very important, because if you take stress, and if you lose your health and your physical and mental health, then it's not easy to get back, and most in a lot of cases it never comes back again. So take care of your health, okay? With that, now we have 5 more minutes. I'll leave it open to questions, and I'll stop talking finally.
I want to just plug something, Priyanka, because you mentioned mentorship and the importance of that, and I want to give everyone the last 5 minutes, but I want to highlight that our office is working on revamping our. We have basically our own version of LinkedIn. It's open to the entire NJIT community, and we've had alumni and student partnerships, mentorship relationships being built right on that website. So I put that there in the chat for everybody. It's currently called Highlander Nations. It's going to be changed to NJIT Work. So just feel free to sign up for that. We already have alumni and students on there. LinkedIn is obviously an amazing resource that we encourage you to use. But if you're looking for direct partnerships with alumni like Priyanka, I highly recommend you sign up for Highlander Nation. And there'll be more information to come out from our office as we revamp it in the next few months. But anyway, I want to give it over to you guys to ask any final questions.
Come on. I need 2 questions. This, you have to challenge yourself. Ask any question, any dumb question or any comment. Say something. Like, just you have to unmute yourself and say something.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So I'm in a situation where I graduate in August 2026
Okay?
and have a fire under me to kind of get a job because
Yeah,
I
of
kind of
course.
uh s- I put out for leave on my second job. It's being a firefighter. So that being said, I'd rather pursue technology, right? That's what I went to
Sure.
NJIT for. But the internship I'm at now is like, hey, and especially the state, like they're in a budget deficit. So knowing that they're kind of like down a lot. So they told me that my director told me like, oh yeah, intern is, cheap labor. I was like, ah, interesting. But he wasn't saying that at me because like, no ego. But anyways, long story short, he can't make a position for me because it's a long process and it has to go up to the governor's office and back down. But one of my options is, hey, I can contract with them. I just don't like the idea of contracting. What do you
Mhm.
think about that? Like, even if it's just getting your foot in the door in IT specifically.
I mean, I don't think if it helps you get a foot in the door and get you experience in the meantime, I don't think it's a bad idea at all. Because right now, anything is any opportunity is a good opportunity. At least in your early career, to get your foot in places. Yeah. Good.
Do you see this? There is a question that popped up in the chat.
Neil, what kind of benefit is a mentee supposed to offer a mentor? What should we look to offer them? That's a really, really good question. Your head is definitely in the right place. So, for one, like, you know, I think if you are actively reaching out to the mentor and if you're actively trying to improve yourself, I think that's the biggest thing you can give a mentor because mentors really want to see their mentees succeed, right? And they want to see them proactive. They want to see them constantly working on their skills, reaching out and getting maybe monthly meetings scheduled on their calendars and like basically being proactive. So whatever it takes for you to be a good mentee is what a mentor wants. And mentors will feel fundamentally fulfilled by feeling that they are able to do something for you. But that's only if you can help your own self, right? Because the mentors in the end can only nudge you. You have to still, you know, fly your plane. So yeah. But that's a great question. Normally people ask the opposite one is what a mentor offers to a mentee, but what does a mentee offer a mentee? Just be a good mentee. Just be a good learner. That's what a mentor wants. Yeah, good question, Neil. Any other questions? One more. Okay, Brendan, go ahead.
Hi. Uh, I have a similar question to the previous person that I was a firefighter. I couldn't see your name, but person that was working as a firefighter. Um, I had an internship prior where I worked in the city that I live in, and it was working with the building inspector. And long story short, the construction inspector was telling me that, hey, I like you, you're pretty cool. Like, if anything, if you want to come back, once you get your license to be an inspector, we could probably do something or help you out in some degree. So, and I haven't taken his offer just yet because I'm still in school. I'm still a senior.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about possibly taking that opportunity, but it's not something specifically in engineering. So I'm not sure whether I should or I should just keep on applying and see what other doors might possibly open.
Right.
I was just
I,
wondering what your 2 cents was on that because it's
um,
like definitely like a fork in the road.
yeah, yeah, and that's definitely like a question that requires some follow-up questions from my end. So why don't you set up some time and let's talk about it because I want to ask you some more follow-up questions. Um,
Got it. I will do.
yeah, good question though, Brendan. Any other one last question from someone who has not asked a question yet? Come on.
I have a question that you can end
Okay.
with if you want. If anyone, I want to leave it to the audience, but okay. We're getting down to the final few minutes.
Right.
You talked about building confidence and imposter syndrome and like it just started to come
Sure.
as you changed your mindset in your career. But is there something that, since we have a lot of students and people who are still working through degrees, is there something at NJIT that they should be doing right now? I mean, besides attending this webinar to help build that positive mindset, that confidence? Like, what else could they be doing right now as students to build their leadership?
Yeah. I think for different people, it can be different things. For me, I'll tell you, for me personally, it was talking to people. Like I would always talk to people and ask people, oh, okay, I feel, or just went out, like saying, hey, I feel horrible today. Can you, and this happened and that happened. And then kind of like getting people, getting emotional support. Because for me, so if I have some self-doubts, I'll call either my friends or my parents and or my mentors and I'll say, hey, you know what, I'm feeling this way. What should I do? Or what should I think? Even what should I think? And then, sometimes they guide you and then you feel better and you feel lighter. So for me, it's always been that, like, it's been consistently that way. Like for me, like the only way is to vocalize how I feel. And sometimes if you want to feel good, it's you can ask your friends or your mentors actually saying, hey, can you tell me something nice about me today because I feel horrible. Because sometimes you just want to hear something nice about yourself, right? Just make your day. And you feel like, oh, how can I ask that to someone? Or so then you just feel horrible. So there's nothing wrong in just telling your mentor or your friend, hey, tell me something nice about me. I want to feel good, right? So, or you can find whatever way you want to say it in. But for me, to answer your question, Heather, that's for me. But everyone has their own ways of dealing with imposter syndrome. The only thing I would say is that don't keep it in your head. Like get out of your own head. Whatever it takes to get out of your own head, whether it's reading, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's talking to a friend, whatever that is, just don't keep it in your head. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that's a great way to end the session. And if you don't feel like you have that person at NGIT, you're doing what you're doing now, all of you being on here, try to find that person, whether it's a faculty member, staff member, an alumni, an upperclassman. I think that also would help um, build that positive mindset. So thank you, Priyanka. This conversation, I think, could have been extended longer than the 1 hour. So, like we said, I'll send a follow-up email to everybody who attended and those who couldn't join us tonight on the Priyanka's contact information as well as Highlander Nation, our own mentorship database. And please, I'll also share information on our next webinar, which is scheduled for April 15th on the basics of HR and benefits. We have two HR professionals from NJT speaking on everything you need to know about how to best utilize your human resources and benefits department within your workplace. Thank you again to Priyanka for sharing her expertise with us. I just feel like when we have an alumni, it's just instant connection to you all. So we really appreciate all of your experiences.
Same. Same. And I feel like it's my personal responsibility to give back. And hopefully someday you guys will also to give back to and pass the torch on, right?
Yes.
I also want to say that tomorrow I'll be there for the AI day. So if anyone's, if you want to chat, we can meet tomorrow.
Yeah. And good luck to everyone going to that is a part of AI Day as well. And Priyanka,
Thank you.
Priyanka's from Canada. Are you in the States currently?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
I just landed today evening and
Oh,
then got
good.
on this call. Yeah.
Oh, and we're glad you're here safely. But thank you, everyone. We hope you have a wonderful evening. And like I said, look for that follow-up email coming soon. Have a great night, everyone.
Have a wonderful evening. Bye. Take care.
Bye.
Well, like
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.